Hello, hello. Welcome back to the She Interviews. Today I am joined by my new friend, Courtney Ball. Courtney, thank you so
Hello.
much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to talk with you all.
Yes, I am super excited. I actually just I had a little chat with Courtney the other day, which was awesome. And then I also watched Courtney's live. Was it last night or the night before?
The night before.
And I was impressed by our first meeting. And then I was really impressed by her live. She is just so eloquent and just so on point all the time. Like she just told me she was tired and like, look at her. She looks fresh as a daisy. And I know I just put a lot of pressure on you, right? I just put a lot
Right.
but anyway, so Courtney's awesome. She helps corporate mamas break through the glass ceiling, and that is definitely something that we need to be talking about here on the She Interviews. But we're going to start with Courtney as the person Courtney, because she has a very interesting story. So Courtney, tell us a little bit about you. Where did you grow up and how did you kind of arrive at what you do now?
Yeah, so I was actually born in a small town in Mississippi called Biloxi. My dad was in the Navy, so he was stationed there for maybe 6 months, and I was born there. And then I primarily grew up in San Francisco. That's where I went to middle school, high school, all that good stuff. Grew up there. I went to college there at University of San Francisco. And right before I started college, I started working at a law firm. And I was a summer intern. I loved it. At the time, I wanted to be a lawyer. And at the end of that summer, they said, so, what do you want from this internship? And I was like, a job. And they gave it to me. And I started working there. I worked there for about 6.5 years. And I know you wanted to hear about me, but starting in my corporate career at 16, that early on, being exposed to that has shaped a lot of my interest, a lot of my passion, also my motivation. And I worked there throughout college and my first year of graduate school. And graduate school is what brought me to New York. I moved here, wow, in 2010 to go to Fordham. And that was also a whirlwind. My whole family, my siblings and my nieces and nephews, they're all back in San Francisco. So I'm here, trying to make it through on my own. And it's been great. And now I still work in human resources. I just started a position as the director of people and culture at a nonprofit called Reform Alliance here in Manhattan. And earlier this year, I started my business where I help women break through glass ceilings.
Amazing. I mean, so one of the things that strikes me about you as a person is that you just have a ton of confidence. I mean, on the outside, right? I don't know what's going on the inside, but something good's got to be going on the inside for you to just be having that confidence on the outside. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, mindset. I mean,
Yeah.
you just have an amazing mindset and you just shared something that kind of, is like, okay, that makes sense. Being exposed to that corporate environment from a teenager, right?
Mhm.
Because I think one of the things that is very difficult for us as we grow up, we're in school and school can be kind of sheltering. You know what I mean? Like it could be
Yeah.
difficult. It could be challenging depending on what school system you are in, what private, whatever, right? But there's still that element of being sheltered. And then, we go to college and then we get our first job and we're kind of in this corporate environment and there's total disconnect of, environment, of culture, right? And the learning
Yeah.
process usually starts a little bit later, but you had that younger. So it's kind of almost like it became second nature, right? So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your
Yeah.
mindset. I'm like just in awe, really.
Yeah. It's so interesting that that's where you want to start because I've worked a lot on my mindset and I've worked a lot on my confidence. And I got to the point in my career about 4.5 years ago where I felt like I was working really hard. My salary didn't match what I was doing and I was not happy. And I had to take a step back and think about, well, what is actually wrong here? You're doing good work. People know you at the organization and there was just a misalignment. And although it was scary, and I work on my confidence every day, I literally just got up one day and I said, I want to be an HR director. that's what I want to do. And I want to get that promotion within the next 2 years. And once I had that kind of long-term goal in mind, it was easier for me to stay focused and show up, even though I didn't have the confidence yet, show up seeming somewhat confident. The other turning point that I didn't mention to you, but I think it did shape a lot of the kind of person that I am. Unfortunately, my first year of college, my mom passed away. She passed away at the end of my first semester. So, for all the moms on, as you can imagine, starting out college and having that happen right at the beginning, it was incredibly difficult for my siblings and I, but it also forced me to create a network of support. You can never replace that kind of love and that connection, but it forced me to surround myself with people, friends, mentors that gave me so much support and love and not assistance, but they made me feel like I could do it. It was always like, yes, you're the first one in your family to go to college, and now you're going to grad school. And oh my God, you're leaving us to go to New York, but you can do it. And eventually I started believing it for myself.
How did you know to make that network? Like, you just seem like you have a natural sixth instinct to be resourceful, like never even thinking or having the mentality of being a victim of your circumstances. You know, I mean, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear about your mom. That must have been difficult. But yeah, like that, where did that mindset come from that, okay, this is something that just happened. I'm going to troubleshoot now.
I think it came from having so many strong women a part of my life as I was growing up. In addition to my mom, I have a ton of aunts. I was very close to both of my grandmothers. And I mean, everyone on here knows we are the ones that get things done. Someone else may think that they're the head of the household, but it's really women that keep everything going, keep their families going, the day-to-day, everything. And anytime I have tough times or I start to doubt myself, I immediately turn to my best friends, a network full of really strong, ambitious, and I would say also very genuine women.
Thank you for that wonderful commercial for the she interviews, because that's what we're doing here. So you see, ladies, be a part of our network, and that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so now we're in New York City. We talked about a few of your defining moments, right? Being the first one to go to college, graduate, right? And then you put your second defining moment as doubling your corporate salary in 2.5 years. You just also spoke about definiteness of purpose. Right? You identified it. You're like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but this is what I'm doing. This is my time frame. And did you read that book, by the way?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
That's good.
Do you know what book I'm talking about?
What is it called?
Oh my gosh, why am I losing my brain right now? It's called
Definitive Purpose?
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh,
so,
okay, I've heard of it.
That's like the first mindset book, right? So he talks about definite purpose, defining what you want, when you want it. You don't know how you're going to get it, but you like, you know, put your flag in the sand, right? Is that kind of like you put your flag, right? Okay. So now we decided we're going to be an HR manager. You get to the point where you double your corporate salary in 2.5 years, which is kind of like not the norm, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one thing that irks me to my core, because New York is such a mecca for so many different industries, I think people that grow up here and people that are transplants here, they're like, I'll take a cut to my salary, or I'll accept this salary just so I get my foot in the door. And when I started at my previous company, I started as an HR generalist, and they wanted to pay me $55,000 a year. And at the time, it was a pay cut for me. It was frustrating, but I'm like, I got to get my foot in the door. So I got my foot in the door and I started working really hard. And after the first year, I got an 11% raise, which took me to what I was making at my previous role. So that's when the beginning of burnout started. So I was working super hard, working. And then I got up one day and I said, you know what? The people that are getting paid the big bucks, they are closer to the revenue generating activities of this company. So I need to figure out how, in my role as the HR associate, how can I do that? And the longer term goal was to be an HR director. But in that moment, I knew to get the kind of salary I wanted, I would need to do some politicking. And I would also need to roll up my sleeves and do the work. So someone left on the operations team. I volunteered to step in and take on managing a global team. And I knew if I made that transition, it was also closer to the actual client service that the consulting firm did. I worked at a company called Eurasia Group. And when I took that on, I was promoted to associate director. And literally 5 months after that, our controller and our CFO left the company. And as the HR person, I worked with both of them on a regular basis. And I said, okay, if you guys want me to take on some of this controller level work, you need to pay me. So I started at 55 in 2014. And by August 2016, I was at 115. And it was because, was I scared every time I asked for more? Yes. Did I think in my head, they're going to say, no, you don't deserve that. You're fired. Of course. But I just did it. I'm like, if you're telling me I have to do the work, I have to pay to play, I'm doing the work. Now you need to pay me. And that can be scary. But I strongly believe, until we have more forums like this where we can come together and say, no, I did it and it works, it will be that much more difficult for women. So that's why I try to talk about the hard numbers more often, and also what I actually did to get those raises.
I love it because you are a consultant and you have a story where you can say, I talk the talk, and look, I walked the walk, and that's why I'm doing what I do. Because I think there's a lot of consultants out there that are more of the variety of, oh my gosh, I love teachers so much, but it's that stupid saying where like people that do, and then people that can't teach, right? And there are a handful of consultants that do that, but you are the real deal. You're the real McCoy. You're like, girl, this is what I did. This is how I figured out how to do it. And it's not because it's me. I mean, it is you, but you also recognize like there is a system and a method to be successful in this, let's call it a game, right? Like this game of corporate America. And you follow the system, you're confident and you follow the system, you can do it too. So I absolutely love that, because a lot of people, they feel like they're working really hard, but half of the time that they're working, they're not actually working. They're not actually being strategic. They're actually burning their energy on saying I'm worth more, and they're not actually going and doing and doing and being more through their work. And I think another thing that I see through what you just described is an entrepreneurial mindset. You know, you took ownership. You said, this is what's going on with me. This is what's going on in the company. This is where I can provide value. I'm going to troubleshoot like I'm the boss, right? Take ownership of this. And you just got it done. And you took that risk as an entrepreneurial mindset. And you just got it done. Bam, girl. High five.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the third defining moment for Courtney, which I want to talk about, because, you know, we're women, and this is a big part of who we are, right? We're just networked to have relationships be at the core. You said making a decision to end a relationship and live alone in New York City. Can you just talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah. So when I finished Fordham, my first job offer was in San Francisco. Literally, maybe within a month of getting the job offer, I got in a relationship with someone. And so I moved home for that year, and we were together long distance. I already started to see the signs that maybe we're not on the same page. But then I moved back here, and we were together for quite a few years after that. And at the point that I got promoted to be a director, I was like, I can afford this apartment by myself. And this person that's here, all they want to do is argue with me and complain about how my career is going up and their career is going nowhere. And I mean, you all know, My mom passed away. So, in terms of a support system, all my siblings are in San Francisco. So, in my head, I had always thought this is my support system. It was when I gained that financial independence that I looked around and I had to have an honest conversation with myself. You can be unhappy alone. And
Right.
what is the point of me trying to force this while I'm wasting years? I want to have a child. I want to be married. I want to settle down. And so I ended that relationship. It was scary to write that rent check every month,
Yeah.
but I figured it out. And I would say that I'm much more financially successful out of that unhealthy, toxic relationship. You don't realize how much bad personal relationships can weigh you down
Oh
in
my God.
every other aspect of your life.
100%. I can relate to that so
Yeah.
much. And this interview isn't about me, but I literally, when I was in my early 20s, I was working in corporate America and I was working towards a career. And then my boyfriend was supposed to come and move with me because we were living in two different states. My boyfriend was supposed to come move with me, and instead of moving with me, he decided that he wanted to break up with me. And I was very
Yeah.
sad. But you know what? Because this is leading into the next thing that you said. You said, I wish someone had told me that family and prior to career is a close second. When my family is my motivation, my career moves are rooted in love rather than insecurity around money. So guess what happened when that relationship ended for me? I actually quit my job. I actually lost a bunch of motivation of why I was doing what I was doing. So when I saw that you had wrote that, I was like, okay, I'm not crazy, right?
No, right, exactly.
Women, right? It's so connected.
We're nurturers, right? We want to nurture, we want the relationship to work. And even like in hindsight, he was not the one for you. He wasn't. He was a waste of your time. But in that moment, you wanted it to work so bad that you were willing to sacrifice career, maybe what you ultimately wanted to do to make it work. And for a long time, I had it the wrong way. I was like, I have to work hard. I have to get promoted so I can afford this city and afford our family and blah, 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 blah. When in actuality, I needed to figure out what genuinely made me happy. And it's not money. It's not a title. It certainly wasn't my ex, but I couldn't figure that out until I got him out of my life and actually focused on me and putting myself first.
100%. Well, Courtney, you are such a strong woman, and I just am so excited to share your story with our viewers, because women need to hear this, and women need to see other women like you being an example, right? And also someone that's cheering us on. So, ladies, this is actually, we're doing a two-part with Courtney. This is part one. Courtney, the woman, and we are going to be back for part two because Courtney actually has some amazing insight to share with us corporate mamas. I'm saying us, I'm actually not a corporate mama. I actually wore this to be corporate with you today, Courtney. This is okay. So this is actually hurting my body right now. I really want to have my rock and roll shirt on, but so we are going to be back for part two, getting some really great advice from Courtney. How do we break the glass ceiling in corporate America? So stay tuned for part two. We'll be back soon.